And we're at PDAC once again with CEO and Director James Tworek of Element79 Gold Corp to get not only just a quick brief overview of the company for those who might be here this first time, but you've had a lot of developments released recently, a lot more volume. People are coming to the story, so we're going to start going into the deep elements of your company as well. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be back.
And happy to have you. Well, I'd like to start, just as I alluded to just a moment ago, can we get a brief overview of your company, and then we're going to start diving into the core aspects of it as well.
Sure thing. When we started this company, the main thesis was, it's tough to make cash flow inside the mining world. The fastest way or the most common way that you see that happen is, basically by property amalgamation and selling off. We started with one property. We grew up to 20 within about 18 months. And then effectively we've been divesting of that portfolio, really just keeping the cream of the crop for ourselves. The main focus, the second, 2.0 story that's underway right now is that we're basically bringing a past producing mine into production this year. Very exciting.
Yeah, and it is. And you don't see it enough from the juniors, right? The juniors, and this is why we invest in it though. A lot of that is a lot of hope. You're hoping you get the right things. You're hoping that one day you can get there. Well, your company has been building that now for the last several years, and now you are right at the precipice of this. So let's dive right into it.
That's right.
Can you comment on the artisanal miner activity currently on the property?
Sure.
Are they currently producing gold? And how would that relationship bring you closer to bringing Lucero back into production?
Sure, absolutely. The artisanal miners that are on site, to give you an idea, the community called Chachas, it's about plus minus 3,000 people. Of that, the subset of the mining guild, the Miners Association, is about 900 people. They work in various mines around the region, I think 6 or 7, including ours. And basically, in terms of their ore extraction, they've been working this since the mine was last in commercial production in 2005. And when we were there in October, we witnessed with our own eyes that effectively they work during the week, then they bag everything up, fill up trucks, and we saw 15 trucks on site moving. The current estimate is that that's somewhere between 70 to 90 tons of haulage per week. And, let's call it plus minus 200 to 300 tons per month that they're moving. Again, you can make your own estimates based on what you assume to be super high grade, because they are hauling it 400 kilometers away. And so you're not moving, bulk rock and, diluting your true quality high grade ore. We know it's multi-ounce gold, multi-ounce silver per ton. So they're just moving the best down the hill. And this is how the community helps earn its bowl of rice every month, right? This is how they eat.
Yeah, absolutely. And having that knowledge obviously makes you want to get there more with Lucero, I can only imagine. And not only do you want to get there, but also it looks like a multi-billion producer potentially does as well. You recently signed an offtake with them. Can you tell us the terms and why it's important for Element79 and its shareholders?
Sure, yeah. No, I have to be very clear here. Yeah. It is just an LOI, okay? So it is not a definitive agreement. I don't actually have terms. We expect them to be, based on conversations. I even met with the potential offtaker yesterday with our team, and, the conversation is around. It will be in the range of market. Now, the really nice thing about this facility is that it is a fully serviced, full service mill that also has a concentrator on site. It can take precious metals and base metals.
Okay.
So the nice thing is that we're not just going to have to high grade to get the best of the best out.
Yeah.
We could also get a lot of the, probably even turn a lot of the waste rock on site into something, gross tonnage wise. But the goal is to get to 200 tons per day. Now, to put that in contrast, I just said the artisanals are producing something like 70 to 90 tons per week.
Yeah.
So in contrast, we will get this into production in stages, but far larger volumes overall of product coming out of the mine. And obviously that means larger and more steady revenue for everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a very good point that you brought up with, you can now take it in bulk and be like, hey, give us the gold and give us the value, but there's usually copper, there's other things that are always involved in that as well. Having that ability to also extract that now makes your gold equivalent, and just in general, the value.
That's right.
Go that much higher, so it's good to hear.
Yeah, base metals credits.
Yeah, right? Exactly, and everyone's talking about copper now. We clearly need some more, so let's see how much is there. Now, Lucero used to be in production. Tell us about the production history and what you need to increase the production there as well. You just spoke about, the tonnage of what you're looking to do. How do you get it even further?
Fantastic question. First and foremost, talking about the history of it. Lucero was in production for about 16 years, commercial production. And at that time, the average production rate was about 150 tons per day, as per the reporting that we have from the historical data. and they're yielding somewhere between 40 to 50,000 ounces a year of total production, okay, just from that. So they were obviously still high grading or separating and just processing the best of the best. But, I mean, that proved economic viability, okay? It was wound down for a small handful of reasons back, most namely the all-in sustaining cost of operations versus gold price having dipped at that time. The executive decision was made by the former owner to basically just, wind it down and abandon it, okay? Now, with that in mind, the artisanals have kept going. So in a sense of thinking of that meme of, if you give up too quickly, like there's a guy with a pickaxe and he walks away. Yeah. The other guy with the pickaxe is still, chipping away at it and he's a meter away from hitting pay dirt. Yeah. They kept at it. And what I mean by that is that our anticipation of this asset was that when we acquired it, we only thought that there was 2.5 kilometers of underground workings. You can have total underground workings in the entire 10.8 thousand hectares.
Yeah.
Okay? There's actually, as we have just found through our mapping program that we finished at the end of December, almost 9 kilometers of overall underground workings that are recognized. So what that leads to answer your second half of that question, is that how do we attack this? Okay? Well, we just finished a channel sampling program. The results are due out very soon, likely in the next week or two. And that channel sampling gives us very specific data-driven points at, specific meterage that can actually form the basis of both an underground as well as above ground drill program.
Wow.
Now that will feed both a resource report, and we intend to get to PEA status within the next year. So through that, we're building the foundation of data, revisiting all of this new working, because we only thought there was 2.5, but there's more like 9. Yeah. It's a significant amount of work for us to get through. But as we get through, the channel sampling will pinpoint where we want to set up drills. As we set up those drills, we're going to come from inside the adits and figure out how the veins behave. They ebb and flow, they expand and they contract, and that will also set for core recovery drilling from the surface. So we will be able to use all 3 of those phases of data to feed a resource report and also feed into the PEA, a mine plan, and get down to work.
Yeah, very exciting. I'm sure many people know this by now, but some people haven't been looking at prices of things recently, and they probably should, because everything you're talking about, gold wasn't above $2,000.
No.
And it's arguable that it was in the hundreds or maybe just over 1,000. It's now over 2,100, and it's now been 3 or 4 months of closing above $2,000. So even if you did absolutely nothing, they abandoned it because the current share price, or current gold price at the time.
That's right.
Think of what's happened since then in the gold price, but also in technology, also the new stuff you're finding. It's a very, very exciting time. But I'd like to pivot really quickly, because we're talking about what you've become, but I'd also like to mention really quickly about what you were, because in 2023 and even in the beginning of this year, you've been divesting quite a few of your assets. As you said at the very beginning of this interview, you were growing assets, you were picking up a lot of these things, but now you're fine tuning. You're trying to really get to what you want to be throughout the rest of the year and beyond. Do you mind talking about those current transactions that are in play here, and whether you continue to want to be potentially divesting more assets as well?
Well, the current focus is absolutely Lucero. When you have the potential of such a high-grade asset and putting it into production to start generating cash flow, coming from my former experience as a commercial banker, my banker mind says that's a real business, right? Yeah. It's not just a prospective punt that you're saying, trust me, I'm going to build this from here to here, and someday some buyer will buy it from us. It's a real generator. But having said all of that, the portfolio generator, or the incubator model that we had previously been through, in divesting from some of these assets, we still have underway. Our lawyers are working fervently at completing the spin-out process, the plan of arrangement spin-out of the Dale asset, which will yield to us, as well as some of our shareholders, in terms of dividending out some of the shares of that new entity, which will be called Synergy Metals Corp. That is one phase of added value, or realizing value for our past efforts. Okay, another one is that we sold a company, Centra, some of our assets in Nevada, and Centra has just finished a 43101 for its own public trajectory. And what they've done is that with the assets they bought from Element79 and a pocket of their own assets they all had privately, they've merged them together, and they're using that to go public with a very focused Nevada exploration and resource development firm. Okay, so we will add holding. I believe we hold something like what's 1.5 million shares of the entity, which is pretty significant. And as that grows, that will be something that we can, and obviously is public, we'll be able to divest of those strategically to help fund in a non-dilutive manner our future exploits. Okay, so we've got Dale, we've got Centra, and Maverick Springs. Ultimately, Maverick Springs, that was our former flagship. We had taken a 1.8 million ounce of historical resource that was only ever conceived as an underground mine, and we reimagined it as a whittle pit. And through that and modern 43-101 standard reporting, we brought that up to 3.71 million ounces of an inferred AuEq gold equivalent resource, right? So within, let's call it 24 to 28 months by the time the transaction closes, we're currently anticipating that transaction will close in roughly May of this year. We will have, our adjusted cost is about $3.6 billion on that asset. And the overall consideration is in the $5 million range, counting shares and cash that we'll be receiving. That's fantastic for us to use those resources to advance, again, future ends of the company, pay off some debt, clean up the balance sheet, and just, straight focus on cash flow generation out of Lucero.
Yeah, very interesting. I appreciate you going into detail there, because there are a lot of investors who are curious about these different things that have been going on with selling some properties, but also, like you just said there, having non-dilutive ways of financing, whether it be Lucero, which I'm sure part of it will go towards, but also just making sure the balance sheet is cleaned up and all of that, which every healthy company absolutely needs to do.
Sure.
Well, the last question I have for you, which is one that I know a lot of investors ask themselves as well, moving forward, we're just about to go into Q2 of 2024. What should investors be excited about coming out of the pipeline from Element79 Gold?
Thank you. A lot. Quick and dirty. Again, number one, drill results. I just talked about those. So we intend to get drills turning circa April after the rainy season is finished. And, with that happening, should be able to be reporting some of those drill results as we explore the veins from the inside and then start setting drill sites for roughly June, July for surface level drilling. Okay, and that would be core capture, and we expect to be able to, hit some really nice and sweet, rich gold and silver intercepts based on the groundwork we've been doing. Number one. Number two, as I just said, Maverick Springs should be closing approximately in May. And with that in mind, again, we've just done a massive balance sheet cleanup, paid off $5.75 million of, just outstanding payables and debt on the balance sheet. Maverick Springs still carries a $2 million loan on the balance sheet. 0%, I'd love to keep that as long as I could, but the reality is, just like when you sell a house, you got to pay off the mortgage too, right? So that will be paid off, again, enhancing the balance sheet, as well as giving us free cash that we can use for both developing current assets. We will likely spend a little bit of that money continuing processes with the last two projects that we're keeping in Nevada, both Clover and West Whistler, at least doing some geochemical ground sampling, possibly even creating 43-101 property of merit reports for those assets. The other piece is that, with the Dale property, as we're walking it to the gate, we're finishing a plan of arrangement on our side. There will be a company that takes over the Dale asset and then goes through its own machinations. But we're expecting to be done by roughly June, and then they will be taking it public in and of themselves. In that process, we will be taking some of those shares, keeping them for our own balance sheet, but also dividending out to our shareholders a portion of those shares. So we have to declare a date for our AGM that will also include the special shareholders meeting with that vote and declaration all in one. Again, a lot of moving parts. Most companies only have one or two assets to talk about. We had 20. And as we clean up this whole portfolio, there's a lot of value generation for us and non-dilutive capital that we can use to expand our process. It's great.
It sounds great. I appreciate you, again, going into a lot of detail here, because you are able to provide a lot, not just a lot of value to your investors, but there's a lot of at-bats. We talk about that all the time, right? There's at-bats, because in the mining world, that's what you're here for. You want to get an at-bat, you want to see what can the team produce, and this is exactly what you're doing. So I'm excited about this. For anybody who's looking for more information, CSC ELEM, you can look up the company and find out more. James, it's always a pleasure. Thank you again for joining us today.
Appreciate this, Brandon. This has been awesome. Thank you.